Hello and welcome to Newsround, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Coming up, Appeal Court upholds industrial court ruling, orders academic staff union of universities resume to work immediately. And President Muhammadu Buhari presents a 20.51 trillion naira for the 2023 appropriation bill. And communities in Anambra State crowd for help over massive flooding as schools take emergency break as homes and farmlands are submerged. Plus, at least 37 people killed in a mass shooting by a sacked policeman at a Children's Day center in Thailand. Our Newsround begins with a tussle between the federal government and the academic staff union of universities. This time, the Court of Appeal in Abuja upheld the decision of a national industrial court ordering members of ASUU to resume work with immediate effect. The appellate court gave the order in a ruling on an application by ASUU seeking permission for it to appeal against the order of the industrial court. Take a listen.
Order of the National Industrial Court must be obeyed today, and upon proof of compliance of that order, they can file a notice of appeal. We had made the point that there was no appeal before this court. An appeal is deemed to be brought to court when the records are transmitted to this court. There has not been an appeal. They've been seeking for leave to appeal, and court said, you must obey that order today, and upon compliance, we will grant you the leave to appeal. And if you do not obey that order, that conditional permission that we're giving you to appeal will be immediately vacated.
Mr. Femi Falana will in truth, SAN will in truth, to his standing over the years as an advocate of rule of law, ensure that these disputes, which he had undertaken yesterday to put all his capabilities in motion to ensure that it is resolved, that he takes appropriate steps to ensure that this order is complied with and that the ASUU imbroglio is resolved as timelessly as possible. In the interim, the court had ordered that Mr. Falana would advise ASUU, who are our clients, to call up the strike and to also approach the court appropriately to ventilate their grievances.
And still in education, the National Assembly members are demanding better welfare for teachers in the country. For the National Assembly members, beyond asking teachers to be rewarded in heaven, the authorities must endeavor to improve the remuneration of the teachers in the country, and this must be backed by legislation.
No. Not you.
About an hour into Tuesday's plenary in the House of Representatives, a member, via a point of order on personal explanation, draws the attention of his colleagues to the World Teachers' Day.
For the House to recognize people that have made us who we are, and at the same time building the next generation. So I seek the leave of the House that if we can suspend our relevant rules so that I come on personal explanation on this very issue, sir.
A matter of this importance and magnitude should not just come by way of personal explanation. I think, Mr. Speaker, I would like to, by the leave of the chair and the honorable members, to let us suspend our rules and take Bago's matter as a matter, substantive matter, by way of a motion, make prayers, and now discuss it exhaustively.
You know, we're in election year, and many people would like to come back with issues to gain attention, which I believe Bagos is trying to use this platform to get that attention.
We gave honor to some teachers who distinguished themselves in their field. Today, Bagos is bringing that. So it has nothing to do with Bagos trying to achieve political relevance.
The Speaker rules that the matter can be debated.
We will discuss it because we are trying to honor the teachers. There's no debate there. So we will discuss it thoroughly.
I want to urge us today that the budget we are going to receive from Mr. President in a couple of days, that we devote enough percentage for teachers and enough percentage for development of education system in Nigeria.
There's a scheme going on by the federal government, housing scheme across the Nigeria, across the country, that teachers should be deliberately given some slots, and the committee on schools, on education, that they should create housing for them, sir, that they should create 70%.
And what are the odds of having a member of the House sharing the same chamber with his secondary school teacher?
He taught me agricultural science in my SS1.
Who?
Please raise up. Mala Ado Sanikuru.
He taught you?
Yes, he taught me in secondary school.
The debate ends with a minute of silence for teachers who have passed on.
May the souls of our teachers who are not here with us today rest in peace.
Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has identified corruption and incessant strikes as factors undermining investment in the education sector. Speaking at the 4th National Summit on diminishing corruption in the public sector, the president explains that unceasing strikes often imply that government is underfunding the system, but corruption from the basic to the tertiary level, the prolonged industrial actions are also complicit in undermining investment in the sector.
The present administration's investment and corruption efforts is central as President Muhammadu Buhari attends the 4th National Summit on diminishing corruption in the public sector at the State House. Top government officials, members of cabinet, the Inspector General of Police attend the event tagged Corruption and the Education Sector. President Buhari, who doubles as Africa's anti-corruption champion, pinpoints that corruption and incessant strikes top the list of persistent challenges that have eroded investments in the sector.
Incessant strikes, especially by unions in the tertiary education, often imply that the government is grossly underfunding education. But I must say that corruption in the education system, from basic level to tertiary level, has been undermining our investment in the sector. And those who go on prolonged strikes on flimsy reasons are no less complicit. Government will continue to fund education within realistically available revenue, but stakeholders, including the media, should equally advocate for transparency in the amount generated as internally generated revenue by educational institutions and how such funds are expended.
Already, major investigations and convictions have been secured and fraud cases within ministries, departments and agencies uncovered.
And so far this year, we've recovered 1.26 billion. Our findings thus far indicate that many prospective appointees are implicated for financial impropriety, corrupt practice, failure of code of conduct standards, and substance abuse.
The Education Minister established that activities in the education sector, which has become synonymous with corruption, has to be thoroughly investigated by the anti-corruption agencies.
We just have to be sincere with ourselves. Many times people will just stand condemning corruption, while the next moment they will engage in it. So we have to be serious and sincere with ourselves. Otherwise, this nation is doomed.
The keynote speaker, Professor Atahiru Jega, was not economical in his identification of the nation's fault lines and compromises in the education sector, including sexual harassment, bribery across the board, gross underfunding and neglect.
Public officials occupying public offices in trust regrettably convert those for private gain, often with impunity. And with regards to the National Assembly, every vice chancellor has to come to defend his or her budget, and in the process, a lot of deals are made. Either your own requirements for the budget are not approved until you do deals, or if you refuse to do deals, that is cut, or if you agree, then the budget is also padded up.
The president also recognized and congratulated Superintendent Daniel Ishe Ama, the sole winner of the 2022 Public Service Integrity Awards. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And finally, the last set of hostages taken by terrorists in the Abuja-Kaduna train attack have now regained their freedom. The victims were freed after more than 190 days in captivity. A member of the Chief of Defense Staff Action Committee, Dr. Abdulmalik Attar, confirmed the release of the remaining 23 victims to Channels Television.
It's been 6 months, 1 week, and Alhamdulillah, it's all come to an end thanks to the support from the federal government through the office of the Chief of Defense Staff. We were able today to go into the bush and bring back the remaining 23 families, finally. Not through our making, but because of somebody that betrayed the committee and the government. That's the person of Tukur Mamu, who did everything within his reach to thwart the efforts the government has put in place, all in his interest. As you all know, he's in the hands of the government now. But Alhamdulillah, all the family members are back. The bandits never asked for money at the issue, but he put money issue into the whole thing and derailed the process and kept everybody for the past 6 months. We just parted away with about $200,000 US. Thank God the CDS took this upon himself, put in place a committee that never asked for one kobo. Every sacrifice being done so far has been personal towards ensuring the release of the victims. I'm happy to tell you that I worked with credible members of the highest order. If I have my way, all of them will be given a national honor because we had to risk our life, went into the bush, slept in the bush, had the complaints of these people, even though we knew what they did was wrong. But we had to engage them. And going forward, like I said, our security agencies must synergize their operations, and the government should open more rooms for engagement.
And still ahead on Newsround, look at President Buhari's budget presentation. That's in a moment. Just stay with us. Welcome back to watching Newsround live on Channels Television. Our President Muhammadu Buhari has presented his last budget proposal to a joint session of the National Assembly. While presenting a proposal of 20.51 trillion naira for the 2023 fiscal year, President Buhari says priority has been given to infrastructure and security. He, however, warns that the payment of petrol subsidy is no longer sustainable and will be discontinued from next year.
The Senate President leads senators into the House of Representatives' makeshift chamber as lawmakers await the arrival of President Muhammadu Buhari for his 8th and final budget presentation. The budget presentation is coming on the same day as the 2022 appropriation bill, which was presented on the 7th of October 2021. At exactly 10:07 a.m., the President walks in to a warm reception from the lawmakers. Before the President's presentation, the Senate President Ahmed Lawan, who prides in the National Assembly maintaining the January to December budget cycle, gives his remarks.
The large-scale and massive stealing of our oil is concerning, as this reduces drastically the revenues available to the government.
Then it's time for the main event, the presentation of the 2023 appropriation bill. But first, the president speaks about the performance of the 2022 budget so far.
The sum of 8.29 trillion naira had been spent by July 31st, 2022, out of the total appropriation of 17.32 trillion naira. Despite our revenue challenges, we have consistently met our debt service commitments. Staff salaries and statutory transfers have also been paid as and when due.
The president elicits a reaction from the lawmakers when he asks them not to go against the rules.
The current practice, where some committees of the National Assembly purport to pass budgets for government-owned enterprises which are at variance with the budgets sanctioned by me and communicate such directly to the MDAs, is against the rules and needs to stop, please. Nigeria requires... It is still my time.
He then presents the 2023 appropriation bill.
The 2023 appropriation, therefore, is a budget of fiscal sustainability and transition. Total federally distributable revenue is estimated at 11.09 trillion naira in 2023, while total revenue available to fund the 2023 federal budget is estimated at 9.73 trillion naira. A total of expenditure of 20.51 trillion naira is proposed for the federal government in 2023.
Of the 20.51 trillion naira proposed for 2023, statutory transfers stand at 744.1 billion naira. Non-debt recurrent expenditure is expected to go up 8.27 trillion naira. Capital expenditure 5.35 trillion naira. And debt servicing 6.31 trillion naira. While sinking funds will go up 247.73 billion naira. The president then seizes the moment to address the issue of the striking university lecturers.
We expect the staff of these institutions to show a better appreciation of the current state of affairs in the country. In the determined effort to resolve the issue, we have provided a total of 470 billion naira in the 2023 budget from our constrained resources for revitalization and salary enhancements in the tertiary institutions. Distinguished senators and honorable members, it is instructive to know that today government alone cannot provide the resources required for funding tertiary education.
And for one last time, President Muhammadu Buhari lays the 2023 budget. In concluding the proceedings, the Speaker of the House of Representatives assures of a speedy and thorough process as he speaks directly to the heads of MDAs.
We will exercise the full authority of Parliament to hold to account those who fail to provide the records we need to make informed decisions on the appropriation bill.
According to the president, 15.2 billion naira has been provided in the budget to scale up measures for safer learning environment in schools, just as defense and internal security have been given top priority. He promises that insecurity will be curtailed before the end of his administration, as he intends to leave a legacy of a peaceful and prosperous nation. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
And the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabor, is promising Nigeria that the armed forces will bequeath a peaceful Nigeria at the end of this administration as directed by the president. He was speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony of a post-traumatic stress disorder center by the Defense and Police Officers' Wives Association in Abuja. At the event, the wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, kicked against moves to raise funds for the center, saying it is the responsibility of the federal government and the president to execute.
Traumatized and left with lifetime scars, these are soldiers injured on the battlefront in northeast Nigeria At least more than 100 soldiers have been killed and scores of others wounded in various operations across the country in this year alone. And against this backdrop, the Defense and Police Wives Association, DEPOA, is embarking on the construction of a post-traumatic stress disease PTSD center in Abuja that will cater for their mental health needs. The groundbreaking ceremony is being attended by the wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, former president of Malawi, Mrs. Joyce Banda, vice president of Liberia, Mrs. Joel Owad Taylor, and the immediate past chair of the UN National Committee, Baroness Sandy Verma. On the state of insecurity, the Chief of Defense Staff restates the commitment of the military to ensure that peace is restored in line with the directive of President Muhammadu Buhari.
I'd like to use this opportunity to pledge the unalloyed loyalty of members of the armed forces and this to Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief, letting him know that his avowed desire to bequeath a Nigeria that is safe to all Nigerians at the end of his tenure, come 2023, that we will stand ready to be able to carry out all the directives that he has given and for him to achieve that aim.
The PTSD facility will serve as a rehabilitation center for soldiers after their return from military operations.
When completed, the center will help evaluate, counsel, and provide adequate support to personnel and, by extension, their families before reintegration from conflict zones.
The initial plan for the execution of the project was to do a fundraising. However, the wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, objects to the idea.
Fundraising is not the solution. The solution is the federal government that sent them to fight that sent them to the war front to take responsibility in taking care of their families and also taking care of their mental health after returning from the war front.
She also speaks about her experience as the wife of a former military head of state, promising that the PTSD center will be completed before the end of her husband's administration.
1 year after he came out from detention, we were married. I clocked 19 years as his wife in his house, legitimately. So I suffered the consequences of the PTSD, because having gone through all this at the age of 19 to handle somebody who is a former president of Nigeria and the commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, to tell the person that he is wrong, to tell him that he is wrong is the first mistake that you are doing.
She then proceeds to perform the groundbreaking ceremony in hopes that this will serve as a morale booster to men of the Nigerian Armed Forces. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And one day, Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency warned earlier in the year of massive flooding along the coastal state. Little did residents of Anambra State imagine the extent of flooding has now hit the state. And most affected is the Anambra West local government area. The water level has risen following the recent downpour and opening of the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon.
Vivid images showing the extent of flooding and devastation along the Anambra riverbank. Even as safety of indigents remain uppermost in their minds, protecting their major source of livelihood, farming and fishing, are as important. An assessment tour of the area by the State's Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, and the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, reveals the pathetic situation.
Immediately after this assessment tour, we'll begin to move people into the camp. Those who want to come out, because some of them may not want to, as a matter of fact. But those who are willing to, we'll bring them out, keep them somewhere, rehabilitate them, keep them going until the water descends.
The rising water level is obvious as speedboats carrying the inspection team head for Anambra West to tour the 16 communities along the Anambra River. The devastation is catastrophic, with houses and farmlands submerged and schools on emergency vacation. The women try to save few of the food crops they managed to harvest, but it's a difficult task.
Water just carry everywhere for our farm. It don't spoil our farm, all the work we work. We don't spoil. Even the house where we stay, so we don't pursue us for the house where we do. We don't see everywhere to pack again. The
entire community is submerged.
The Transition Committee chairman of Anambra West local government area and a NEMA official explained that this is a recurring problem experienced in 2012, 2019, and now 2022.
And you know that more than 95% or 99.5% of the people living here are farmers. And you can see the means of their life. You see people watching their means of livelihood being destroyed by flood. It is quite pathetic. People can no longer, their farms are destroyed. They don't even have a storage facility where some of these farm produce can be kept. Even those places that manage to keep them, you see that being submerged with flood.
A few weeks ago, we have conducted a joint assessment, SEMA and NEMA, sensitizing the frontline communities on what they need to do. We have also identified some of probable IDP camps where the evacuees will be, positioned in case of evacuation.
For now, it may be difficult to quantify the losses, but in the coming days, when the floods recede, residents here will know what's left of their homes and their farmland, as well as other property.
Our news round ends in northeastern Thailand, where a gunman killed at least 37 people in an attack at a children's daycare center in Anambra province. Thailand's Prime Minister, Prayuth Chan-o-cha, offered his deepest condolences to the victims' families and said he had ordered an investigation into the attack. And that's it on News Round. Thank you for watching. I'm Vladi Williams. Bye for now.